All right, ladies and gentlemen. So today's lesson is called Solving One-Step Equations. Now, I know some of you may already know how to do this, but this is just review, okay, before we get into solving two steps. So remember, we've already reviewed how to add integers, that's positive and negative whole numbers, and then also how to multiply integers, positive and negative, as well as dividing integers. Okay, so now that we know those concepts, we can go ahead and solve using those methods. Okay, so what we're going to do here to solve one-step equations is we're going to undo the operation that is being performed to the variable. So notice here, in every equation we're going to have a variable, and then something's going to be done to that variable, whether it's going to be addition, subtraction, multiplication, or division. And then we have the result on the other side of the equal sign. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to always start on the side that has the variable, and we're going to undo the operation that's being performed to that variable. So right here we have a W, right? And there's a -4 that's being added to that W. So we're going to undo that -4 by adding 4 on both sides. Okay, it's important to do it on both sides because we have an equation that means it's equal on both sides. So we must be equal on both sides. So we add 4 on both sides, a -4 plus a 4. Since we're undoing the operation, that means it's going to completely cancel out. So we have W equals, and then -12 plus 4 is -8. And by the way, feel free to use a calculator for these. For the numbers that are smaller, you should be able to do them mentally, but don't feel obligated to do everything using mental math. Okay? Next problem. Again, we start on the side that has the variable. This time it's on the right side of the equal sign, and there's a 14 being added to it. So we're going to undo the 14 that's being added. We're undoing the 14 by subtracting. Since it's a positive 14, we're going to undo it by doing -14 underneath that, and we got to do that to the other side as well. And so that cancels out. On the right side, we end up with x. On the left side, 6 minus 14. Go ahead and take out your calculators if you need to, but this is going to be a -8. And let me go ahead and box my answer here to show you that that's the final answer. Okay, moving along, we have x plus 10 equals 1. So some number, if you add 10 to it, you're going to get 1. What is that number? Well, let's solve. Let's subtract 10 on both sides. And we end up with x equals 1 minus 10. That's going to be -9. In other words, -9 plus 10 is going to give you +1. Okay? So our answer for this one is -9. Last one here. We have 0 equals t plus 8. Again, the variable is on this side, and then we are adding 8 to it. So let's undo that by subtracting 8. So the 8's cancel on the right side. We're left with t on the right side, and 0 minus 8 is just -8. Okay? A few more examples to go. Copy all these down. Next problem. We move on to multiplication. So all these here are multiplying something to the variable, okay? So here we have -3 times x equals 21. So the operation that undoes multiplication is division. Okay, so we're going to undo multiplication by dividing by the same number. So we're going to divide by -3 on both sides. Okay, so -3 divided by -3, that's going to be a negative divided by negative is going to be a +1. So I'm left with +1x equals, and then over here I just do 21 divided by -3 is going to be -7. Okay. Next one. We have the variable here. It's being multiplied by a -10. So we're going to undo by dividing by the same number. We're going to divide by -10. Whenever you divide the number by the same number, you're always going to end up with a 1. Okay, so this is just going to become 1x equals, now notice here I have a fraction, -4 over -10. Well, I know that a negative divided by a negative is going to be a positive, so my answer is going to be positive, but I end up with a fraction. Now, we're going to have to reduce this fraction here by dividing each number by 2. So 4 divided by 2 is 2. 10 divided by 2 is 5. So this is my reduced answer. Both answers represent the same amount, but this is in reduced form and this is not. Always reduce your answers, if possible. Next problem. Notice here the variables on this side. So we need to undo multiplication by 11 by dividing by 11. So we're going to go ahead and divide by 11. Notice it's a positive 11. The 11s cancel. Sorry, they don't cancel. They divide out. And then here we have negative 5 over 11. Notice there is no factor that I can divide out, so I just leave my answer like this. Okay, there's no number that could go into 5 and 11. And so that means my answer is already in simplified form. Over here, I forgot to box this. Let's move on to the last one here. So notice here I have 8 equals negative 20 times y. I'm going to go ahead and undo the multiplication of negative 20. So I do that by dividing by negative 20. The negative 20s go away. I'm left with just 1y. And then here I have negative 8 over 20. Notice how the negative was at the bottom, but I can just go ahead and write it on the left side because a positive divided by a negative is going to be a negative answer. Okay? Now notice here they're both even numbers. That means I can divide by 2. But is there a bigger number that I can divide both of these numbers? Yes, I can divide both of these numbers by 4. So if I divide by 4, 8 divided by 4 is going to be 2. And 20 divided by 4 is going to be 5. And so remember that it's negative. And so that's my final answer, negative 2 over 5. Okay? 2 more pages to go. You're copying all these down. All right, next one. Notice here we have division. Each variable is being divided by a number. And so what we need to do here is undo division by multiplication. So we're going to go ahead and multiply each side by the number that it's being divided by. So here notice x is being divided by negative 3. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply this side by negative 3 and this side by negative 3 also. Notice how I use parentheses around here? I could have done the same thing here too. So this times negative 3 and this times negative 3. What that does is it leaves me with the negative 3's becoming just 1. So I have 1x equals, and then negative 3 times negative 2 is going to be a positive 6. Okay? Next example. What is the variable being divided by? It's being divided by a positive 8. So that means I'm going to multiply both sides by a positive 8. The 8 divides by the 8 becomes 1. So I'm left with just b. And then 8 times 3, they're both positive, so it's just going to be positive 24. 2 more to go here on this page. The x is being divided by the 4. So let's go ahead and multiply both sides by the 4. So I multiply both sides by 4. The 4's go away here. I'm left with x equals 4 times 12, which is 48. And that's it. Last one here. I'm dividing the v by a 2, so I'm going to multiply both sides by that same 2. The 2's go away. I'm left with v equals negative 7 times 2 is negative 14. All right. Finally. Now, these are special cases of division because it includes a fraction that has a numerator that is not 1. And the other examples, all these right here, the variable didn't have a coefficient next to it. In other words, it didn't have a number other than the invisible 1. Okay? Well, this one here, notice all the numerators are not 1. They are a different number. So this in reality is kind of like a two-step equation, but we're going to go ahead and do it as if it were, well, we're going to do it as two steps, okay? But I'm going to show you guys a trick. So check this out. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take each fraction and I'm going to multiply the numerator by the variable. So it's going to look like this. Negative 6 equals 3x over 4. Okay? We're going to do that for all of these. But let's finish this problem first. So now I can think of it as two steps. The variable is being divided by 4, but it's also being multiplied by 3. So I'm going to go ahead and take care of the division first. So I'm going to undo division by 4 by multiplying by 4 on both sides. So the 4's go away. And what am I left with? Not just x, I'm left with 3x. And then what do I get over here? 4 times negative 6 is negative 24. Again, feel free to use your calculators if you need to. And then, notice here I'm not done yet. I know I'm done when I have x all by itself. Right here, it has a 3 next to it. It's being multiplied by the x. So how do we do this? Well, we undo multiplication by dividing. So we're going to divide by 3 on both sides. So x goes away here, so I'm just going to write x equals... And negative 24 divided by 3 is negative 8. That's my final answer. Okay? So again, it was two steps. Over here, 4/3 times w. Remember, we're going to go ahead and multiply the numerator, the number on top, by the variable. So that's going to become 4w over 3 equals 1. And so we're going to undo division first. So we're going to multiply by 3 on both sides. So here the 3's go away. And then I have 4w equals 3. Now that the w is being multiplied by 4, I'm going to undo multiplication by dividing by 4. So the 4's go away here. And I have w equals 3/4. Notice I can't reduce this further, so that's my final answer. My answer is a fraction. And finally, again, we have a fraction here, but this time the fraction is negative. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just move the negative to the 3. So it's going to look like this. Negative 3 over 2x equals 7. So now I'm just going to multiply the numerator, which is a negative 3 times x. So it'll be negative 3x over 2 equals 7. So in other words, all I did was I applied the negative to the top number, and then I did it like I did the other ones before. So we're going to undo division. They're dividing by 2, so we're going to undo that by multiplying by 2. And so the 2's go away here. I'm left with negative 3x equals 14. Well, we're not done yet. We're multiplying here the x by negative 3. So how do we undo multiplication? By dividing by the same number. So we're going to divide by negative 3. The negative 3's go away. I'm left with x equals negative 14 over 3. Again, a positive divided by a negative is going to be a negative, so that's why I wrote the negative first, and then 14 over 3. Since this can't be simplified further, that means that's my final answer.